You know the drill. It's always fun to win in Pittsburgh. Let's break down that game and also a little bit of the Capitals game on Friday as well on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So 2 games happened this weekend, one good, one not so good. But also there was one win and one loss. So that kind of makes sense. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about the Washington game because I feel like we all know what went wrong there, right? Dale's oldest time. Blue Jackets forgot how to score. Major penalty in the final minutes of the game that really kind of impacted the game. Another goal called back. Uncharacteristic goaltending game from Jet Greaves. That was one of his worst games as a Blue Jacket, which is maybe unfair to him. But I feel like he started the season so strong and finished last season so strong that anything less than like a 9-10, and you're like, what is this? I don't like this. But he'll bounce back. He'll be fine. I said that the team needs to bounce back, and they did against Pittsburgh, which is always fun, right? Pittsburgh, a much better team than they were expected to be this season. I do think that probably there will be some regression to the mean for them, and in the same way that there'll be regression to the mean for the Blue Jackets, right? But lots of things to like about this game. There were some things to not like about this game, and we'll go through them. But this was the second half of a back-to-back. Second half of a back-to-back of the season, which they didn't win in the second half of a back-to-back until April last season. They had 12 back-to-backs. They went 10-2. Those 2 back-to-back wins were both in that Jet Greaves streak at the end, I believe. I don't believe he won all 4 of those games, but I believe both of those wins were Jet wins, which is kind of insane. So, hey, I'll take it. I'll take a win in Pittsburgh. Again, there were some things I didn't like. The third period I thought was sloppy. I have some specific thoughts about a specific defenseman that I'll get into, but overall, in the grand scheme of things, right? The team is playing 500 hockey right now. Which I know people got a little bit twitchy about, in terms of the team should be better than this season. You look at the teams that we thought the Blue Jackets would have as quote unquote peers this season. Montreal, Detroit, New Jersey, they're all doing really, really well, right? Montreal has 14 points. They're 7-3. New Jersey is 7-1. Detroit is 6-3, right? However, there are also some teams that we thought would be better. The Maple Leafs, for example, are only 4-4-1. The Tampa Bay Lightning are 2-4-2. Blue Jackets have a win over Tampa Bay Lightning, and they play Toronto next week, which is why I'm bringing those 2 teams up. There's a lot of. It's very early in the season. I'm gonna take 500 hockey. I'm gonna take an even goal differential as well. They've scored 25 and allowed 25, which I believe at this point in the season of last year. Let me pull up what they were like at after 8 games, because I believe so. After 8 games last year, they were 4-3-1. So they'd managed 1 extra point They'd allowed the same amount of goals, but they'd scored 8 more. So they were +8 in the goal differential. And I think, again, that has been the real difference, right? Is how many times has this team forgotten how to score so far this season? Because I believe it's basically every loss has been they've shot the puck enough times, but haven't beaten the goalie, right? And the Washington game was another example of that. I don't remember the expected goals off the top of my head, but I believe they had about 3.5 goals worth of expected goals, and they scored 1, right? At a certain point, it's a problem with the offense, not just running into a hot goalie, but it is what it is, right? Again, Blue Jackets played 500 hockey 8 games into the season. They're about where they were last season. I know some people wanted steps forward from them. It's still very, very early, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say that, yeah, I maybe expected a little bit more, but 500 hockey is 500 hockey, right? Hopefully they can keep that going. They won in the second half of a back-to-back, and I had another point to make, and I don't remember what it was. So we'll just keep going and hope that it comes back to me. I'm not worried about this team. Maybe I'm a little bit worried. If they'd lost this game, I probably would have been a little bit more worried. Oh, I remember what my point was. Love that for me. I think after game 4, which would have been the Avalanche game, I believe, they lost. That was the ugliest game of the season. By far their worst. I think the Capitals game was less fun to watch, but the team played better. So swings and roundabouts, right? But the Avalanche game after that, I believe that was when I said, 8 games into the season, that's basically 10% of the way through. I want to see them be 500, and that means winning 3 of the next 4 games, which I then looked and was like, well, that's Tampa, Washington, Pittsburgh, Dallas. 3 wins out of 4 seems like a tall order, but let's see if they'll do it. And hey, lo and behold, they did it. Wins in Dallas, against Tampa, and against Pittsburgh. So that was basically what I wanted, right? They've got 3 wins out of their last 4. They won on the second half of a back-to-back. They won in Pittsburgh. I cannot overstate how much I like it when they win in Pittsburgh, especially because I think prior to last season, they hadn't won in Pittsburgh since the Obama administration, which feels insane. It was almost the first Obama term as well. It was like 2015, I believe, was the last time that they'd actually won in Pittsburgh before this, which, again, insane. But now they got wins in Pittsburgh in back-to-back years, and now they don't have to play them again until November. So also a win. Let's talk about the game specifically, though, because there was, like I said, there was lots to like and also lots to dislike, I think. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of that game just in a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, though, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay and a shot for a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. I love using FanDuel. I love doing those insane same-game parlays of, well, if this guy has this many shots and this guy has a goal and this guy wins 3 face-offs, then I put $5 down and win $1 billion. I know that there are much more normal ways to use FanDuel, but that's what I like to do. So if you want to do that, you can, or you can be much more sensible. Just go in, find the hot hand, pick the heaviest favorite you can. And if your first $5 bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets that you could use on whatever you want. That's right. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. I want to talk about game specifics for a second, because, again, lots to like in this game. They got offense after it didn't look like they were going to get offense for a second there. Now, the goalie still had quite a good game. I believe had about a 900 save percentage. Shilov's had 4 goals on 41 shots. So, respectable, right? Blue Jackets got less good goaltending from Elvis, but better than expected after, I think, 2 goals in the first period, which would have been 2 goals on, I think they scored on their 6th or 7th shot of the period. So Blue Jackets outshot the Penguins 16-7 in that first period and came out of it down 2-1. And both of those goals, I think, were very stoppable shots. I don't think he saw the first one necessarily until it was too late, because Kent Johnson screened him accidentally. The second goal is one that you've got to have. That to me is the goal that you want to get a save on. So again, not like a terrible Elvis performance. You know, we've seen some terrible Elvis performances, but after Jet wasn't the best on Friday, I would have liked to see a slightly stronger performance from Elvis. That being said, I thought he had some really great saves. I thought overtime in particular, like he only made 3 saves, but I feel like all 3 of them were spectacular. Really, like, just a really, really strong second half. Okay, no, I'm going to rephrase that. Elvis played well in long stretches of the game. I thought he was very good at overtime. I thought he was good in the third period right up until things went badly, which was with about 5 minutes left in the game. Because in his defense, both of those goals, I think, were not necessarily his fault. We all know whose fault they were, but we'll talk about that in a second here. But after going down 2-1 in the first period, I think it would have been it would have been not surprising at all for a lot of people if the team had just kind of collapsed and if Elvis had collapsed, right? And I do wonder if that was what would have happened kind of last season or the season before. But this season, again, that late second goal in the first period, and then Elvis shut it down for the next, like, I want to say 15 or 16 shots. They had 8 in the second period and then 14 in the third. So if we account for, some scuffles at the end of the third period, I believe they scored on probably their 12th. The tying goal, I believe, was probably their 12th or 13th shot of the period. So he shut it down for basically the next kind of 15 to 20 shots. So, again, not ideal. 4 goals on 30 shots is not ideal, but it was enough to get the win. And frankly, I'm not blaming Elvis on that third period meltdown necessarily. Who I am blaming is Erik Gudbranson, who was on the ice for both of those goals and was doing absolutely nothing for both of them. Like the Brian Rust goal was especially egregious to me. I'm going to extend a little bit of grace to the Letang goal because it was on the power play. They just finished killing a very energetic power play from the Penguins, and then I think like 4 seconds later, Cole Sillinger, stupid penalty. I don't know if this is like confirmation bias for me, but I feel like every time Cole Sillinger takes a penalty, a goal comes out of it, and like partially I think that's because this team can't kill a penalty to save their lives for most of the season. So it's not like it's a specific Cole Sillinger thing, but I do feel like the last few times Cole Sillinger has taken a penalty, it's resulted in a power play goal, which is frustrating. And not necessarily his fault because you want your penalty killers to do the job there, but also I would love if he stopped taking penalties because there's been too many of them too early in the season. And I go back and forth on whether that last one was like, quote unquote, a necessary penalty to take, but also I'm kind of over the stupid penalties. If you're going to take stupid penalties, you have to make up for that in other areas. And so far, he's not really doing that for me in recent shifts. Anyway, that was a little sidebar on Cole Sillinger, but Erik Gudbranson was on the ice for the power play goal and here's the thing. Erik Gudbranson is not good on the penalty kill, and yet they proceed to trot him out there every single penalty, apart from the ones that he takes, which in fairness, few and far between, but extremely frustrating because I don't think he's very good at it, and it's very, very frustrating. The Brian Rust goal was unacceptable, in my opinion. for someone like Eric Branson, who has been playing in this league a long time, I believe has more games than any other Blue Jackets defenseman. He's got 800 games, which I think will almost certainly put him above both Werenski and Provorov, even though Werenski's missed a bunch of time. Provorov hasn't, but I don't think either of them are at 800 games yet. And I'm going to double check that real quick. Werenski's at 575, which means Provorov is probably in the late 600s. Is my guess. Let's see if I can find Ivan Provorov on the sheet real quick. Anyway, the point I'm making here is Erica Branson has been, Ivan Provorov is at 704. So second most games of Blue Jackets defenseman. Point I'm making here, Erica Branson has been playing in this league for a long damn time. He has played a lot of games and is somehow seen as this like defensive stalwart. And for some God only knows reason, the Penguins have the puck. Like, it's frantic, I get that, but he gets caught chasing a player that already has a man on him. And I don't remember who that guy was. And, like, frankly, it might have been Sidney Crosby, at which point I'm kind of like, yeah, you maybe do need two guys on Crosby, because otherwise he will just kind of make you look silly. But he just kind of drifts, not even drift, he just actively skates away from Brian Rust, leaving him wide open. Do you want to say from Elvis there? Yeah, maybe. But, like, that goal is 100% on Erica Branson. And that's so frustrating, because we're told that he's a good veteran presence. We're told that he's a defensive guy. We're told that he's physical. We're told that he does all of this stuff, right? And yet, at the end of the game, when you need someone to shut it down, he's out there just skating in the opposite direction. Like, no one was around Brian Rust. Like, I don't know what he was thinking. And the answer probably is that just he wasn't. He saw Crosby and panicked. But, like, you're like 34 years old, dude. You've been playing in this league a long time. How is this what we get from Erica Branson? And part of this, I think, is just like frustration on my part from Jay Christensen sitting at the expense of putting Erica Branson on the ice. But, like, man, you got to be better than that. Your team's up 4-2. Yeah, the power play goal, fine, whatever. You're up 4-3. There's like 3 minutes left in the game. All you've got to do is stop them from scoring. They've looked terrible for most of the game. And you just kind of gift them an overtime point like that. I would be even madder about this if the Blue Jackets had turned around and lost this game, which probably tells you something about how annoyed I am right now. But, like, yes, the Blue Jackets won. Yes, they took, they took it to the shootout and everything was fine, and Elvis was good in overtime and blah, 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 blah. Should never have gotten to overtime. That should have been a regulation win, and you should have been escaping Pittsburgh laughing about it, right? And instead, we're sitting here spending, 5-6 minutes of a 30-minute show talking about Erica Branson almost losing this game for the Blue Jackets. Frustrating. It's also going to be really frustrating when Miles Wood comes back, because it sounds like he's going to be back soon, which is good news. I don't you don't like a player to be injured, but you can just tell that the guy who's going to be the odd man out is going to be Yegor Chinakhov, which is so unfair, because he has been one of the best players offensively for the last, 3 games. I thought he had a great game in Dallas. I thought he had a great game against Washington. Had a goal last night, a hell of a goal, really. And he continues to just kind of languish on the fourth line. So let's talk a little bit more about Yegor Chinakhov in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about game time. Hockey season's officially here. Nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games, but let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout. It is easy to get frustrated, but all you want to do is cheer on your team. And that's why Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It is your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I got Leafs tickets for less than $100 on Game Time earlier this month. I had great seats in minutes. I used the promo code, which we'll talk about in a second here, and I got to see the view from the seat before we bought them, which is great. And my personal favorite, no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. That's what I did. Terms do apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about Yegor Chinakhov for a little bit. Highest ice time of the season, which is, I think, deserved. He played over 10 minutes. Had a goal. Great goal. A vintage Chinakhov goal, right? I thought he was great against Washington. Had, I think, 4 or 5 shots on goal against Washington. And obviously, it was kind of all for naught. But I think I tweeted last night something along the lines of, like, what if Yegor Chinakhov had real line mates? And I do fully believe that. Like, at this point, he's like these 3 games, and I don't know whether something like I don't know whether a switch has flipped. I don't know whether it's him realizing that if he doesn't step up, he is going to be the odd man out. When it comes to Miles Wood coming back, it sounds like he's going to be back maybe not the next couple of games, but maybe next weekend. Blue Jackets are off. They were off yesterday. They're off today. They play back to back. Tomorrow and Wednesday, so we'll talk about that in a second here. But I do wonder if this is Chinakhov just being like, well, I don't really like being on the 4th line, but also if I don't play well, then they're just going to put me back in the press box, and I also don't want that. So whatever it is, I'm enjoying it. I think he has been one of the better players offensively for the Blue Jackets the past couple of games. Great assist in Dallas to, I think it was Denton Matejchuk's goal, where he just kind of stops and throws the puck out to the point, and Denton Matejchuk is there, which, by the way, I love that Denton Matejchuk has figured out that he's got a shot, because I feel, obviously, goals in back-to-back games, goals in Dallas, goals in Washington, and then last night in Pittsburgh, he could have had 2 or 3. He's got that huge booming shot from the point, which is impressive considering he's only, I think he's officially 5'11", but my money would be on him being a little bit shorter than that just because of how NHL heights work. But like, it's fun. I love it. Yes, do more Denton Matejchuk. We love to see it. But Yegor Chinakhov was, again, I thought great last night, has really, really stepped up. And I would love to see him be moved up the lineup. It looks like he's getting more and more ice time, which again is probably a good sign. He's gone from getting 6.5 minutes to over 10 minutes, which is good. An extra 4 minutes of ice time a game. He needs to be on a line that is not the one that he is on. I have liked Isaac Lundestrom. I think he's not a player that does a lot, but he also stops a lot from happening, right? Like, he's a really low event player, which is not necessarily a bad thing. He's got some speed. He's got some, he's smart defensively. He's not going to do a lot, right? But he's a great 4th line center. Zach Aston Reese is Zach Aston Reese. He is who he is, right? Chinakhov is a skilled player that needs more on his line. If you look at what he's done the past 3 games or so with those line mates, you've got to be wondering, like, what happens if they give him real line mates, right? Like, and I'm not even talking about the top 6 necessarily, although I personally would have him in the top 6. But like, swap him and Olivier, right? Have him roll with Sillinger and Coyle. I think him and Coyle is a really fun duo. I think that duo could be what they thought Kent Johnson was going to be for Coyle, which is Coyle does a lot of underrated, like, quote unquote dirty work. Cole Sillinger crashes and bangs around, and is not like super effective right now, which is frustrating because I think he's been effective at doing this in the past. But put Chinakhov on that line, give them a goal scorer, and I think you're going to see much more from that line because, again, I keep talking about this. Like, you don't have to have that 3rd line be a checking line. You can have your 3rd line be a scoring line. I know that that's like a foreign thing for a lot of coaches, and apparently to Dean Everson himself, but like, you can have more than 2 scoring lines on a team. You don't have to have that 3rd line be a checking line. And I think if you put Chinakhov there, that to me becomes a scoring line, right? You reward Chinakhov for playing well. And I understand that no one, it's going to feel like a demotion to Mathieu Olivier, who can bring some scoring and can bring some offense. But Chinakhov's got that speed. He's got that shot. Yes, I know that he wants out, but Don Waddell said, right? Like, they are another injury away from needing Chinakhov in the lineup. I still don't know if, and here's the thing: the Blue Jackets are not going to win this trade. I don't think. If it's a hockey trade, quote unquote, it's going to be someone like Nick Robertson, who I think has less upside than Chinakhov, but has equally struggled in Toronto. And what's going to happen is Chinakhov will go to Toronto, get 6 minutes, and immediately start like thriving, right? Like, this is what's going to happen with this trade. I hope everyone's aware of this. But if you can give him more minutes, so yeah, okay, he's on the third line, but give him power play minutes. Frankly, I'd try him on the penalty kill. I would have to look at his like actual defensive like stats, but try him on the penalty kill. Why not? Can't be worse than some of the forwards you put on the penalty kill, right? And again, he's fast. He's got good hands. Like, if Chinakhov is on the penalty kill and he finds an opportunity to get a breakaway, like, there are probably very few players that could catch him. And again, he's got a hell of a shot. I think it's worth a shot, and that to me would be a good compromise of, yeah, we don't have room for you in the top 6 right now, but we're going to get you some extra minutes on special teams, right? Put him on the second power play unit, put him on the second penalty kill unit. That to me, that's what I would do with Chinakhov. What I suspect is going to happen is Miles Wood is going to come back and Chinakhov's going to go straight back to the press box so they can let Miles Wood run around at 25 miles an hour and do very little. But I hope I'm wrong. And for me, it should be Zach Aston-Reese that comes out of, if they have to put Miles Wood back in, it should be Zach Aston-Reese that comes out of the lineup. But like, honestly, Wood, Lundstrom, Chinakhov would be interesting to me, because Lundstrom's defensive, and then Wood and Chinakhov are both fast. And if you can get them both to blow the zone and get the puck to the Russian, there might be something there, right? So I would take Zach Aston-Reese out of the lineup. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but who knows? My guess is that they'll put the veteran back in at the expense of the young player, regardless of how well that young player is playing. But is that because of the Jake Christensen thing? Am I still bitter? Yes, I am. Justice for Jake. As I texted a friend yesterday during the game. Overall, I didn't hate the game. Like I said, there was things to like. I thought they dominated Pittsburgh for long stretches. I thought they were the better team in overtime. Obviously, they were the better team in the shootout. I didn't even get a chance to talk about the shootout and how great Ken Johnson's just a cheat code, man. And then the Fantilli goal, the Marchenko goal, great. You love to see it. No complaints about the shootout. And again, there's been a lot of complaining in this episode, I feel like, but the team won. I'm happy about that, right? Like, I'm not sitting here being like, yeah, no, the team's better. I think they were the better team. I think they deserve to win. I'm frustrated that it ended up having to go to overtime, but at this point in the season, a win is a win. I'm not going to get too mad about it, apart from some specifics. But onwards and upwards from here, right? You played 500 hockey, great. 500 hockey's not going to get you in the playoffs. And coming up, you've got the Sabres, who are performing shockingly well after a really rough start to the season. They've improved to 4-4-1, which is good for them. The Maple Leafs are also 4-4-1, but I think it's safe to say that is not necessarily a good thing for them. I think there was much higher expectations, and also I believe John Tavares is coming up on his 500th goal, so we better hope he gets it before Wednesday, because if not, that's coming against the Blue Jackets. Actually, I don't know how many points Sidney Crosby had last night. I need to check to see if I don't think he hit the 0. Okay, great. The Blue Jackets did not let Sidney Crosby hit 1,700 career points, because I was like, oh, this is for sure happening, right? But before I get sidetracked again, onwards and upwards from here, right? Again, you want to... 500 is not going to get you in the playoffs. You should beat the next two. You should win against the Sabres and the Leafs. I think we're going to see bounce back performance from Jet in goal, who presumably will play on Tuesday. I think the Maple Leafs are struggling right now. I don't know what their goaltending situation is doing, and I don't know that they do either. But we'll talk about that like later on this week. 500 right now is great. Gotta be better, right? that's all I've got for today. Tomorrow, we're going to preview the game against Buffalo. And also, because I didn't get a chance to talk about it here, even though I put it in my little side box, I want to talk about Dmitri Voronkov, who I believe is now leading the Blue Jackets in points. So we're going to do a little bit of a dive into Voronkov and what he's doing this season to make him so successful. So that's going to be tomorrow's episode. So shout out to one of my wonderful everydayers, Stanley. I'm sure you're going to be real excited about tomorrow's episode. I after Voronkov scored that second goal last night, I was like, oh man, you know who's thrilled about this? Stanley. So shout out to Stanley. I also want to give a shout out to I think it's Arizona Coyotes fan who is again a loyal listener, which I love that for me. I'm sorry about your team, but they have been guessing Charlie Coyle to score a goal for every single game this season. So I'm glad that they were finally vindicated with a Charlie Coyle goal. And hopefully here's to many, many more. But thank you to everyone for listening, not just those two everydayers. If you're an everydayer, I always appreciate you. If you're not an everydayer, then the best time to start is now, right? Thank you for listening, for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, over on YouTube, and you can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Tomorrow, like I said, we'll talk about Big Boss Dmitri Voronkov, and we'll preview the game against Buffalo Sabres. But until then, make sure you stay locked on.